Welcome to Gleaning Mustard Seeds with Jerrie Barber. Mr. Barber is a preacher, a ventriloquist, a barefoot runner, and writes 2 blogs. When Jerrie communicates, he encourages people, try not to learn very much. Find a mustard seed. In the next few minutes, try not to learn very much. Look for something you can do to move a mountain, remove a stumbling block, or provide a stepping stone for yourself or someone else. And now, here's Jerrie with this week's mustard seed.
In the previous episode, we started a discussion on our attitude toward criticism. If you haven't listened, episode 12 will give a good context for this discussion. There was a time when I thought if God's people were good enough and worked hard enough, they wouldn't get criticism. We noticed that concept didn't work in the Old Testament. Moses and Aaron were chosen and supported by the Lord to speak to Pharaoh, but they were criticized harshly by Pharaoh and their own people. Let's see if it gets better in the New Testament. Paul was an apostle and an effective preacher. Not everyone was happy with him. He mentioned some in 2 Corinthians 10:10. For his letters, they say, are weighty and powerful, but his bodily presence is weak and his speech contemptible. My paraphrase of the last part of that verse describing Paul, he's ugly and he can't preach. Let's observe Jesus. Mark 3:22, and the scribes who came down from Jerusalem said, he has Beelzebub, and by the ruler of the demons he cast out demons. John 10:20, many of them said, he's demon-possessed and raving mad. Why listen to him? Well, of course, the devil and those who follow him won't be happy, but if we can just be good enough and work hard enough, maybe we won't be criticized by good people. Notice another observation about Jesus and who made it in Mark 3:21. But when his own people heard about this, they went out to lay hold of him, for they said he is out of his mind. Unless we can be better than Jesus, we won't escape the negative and sometimes hurtful comments of others. Criticism is. It happens. I can't control that. I do have a choice about my attitude. Attitude is the way we face something. There are different angles to look at the same situation. Bob Russell, who wrote the book When God Builds a Church, tells about a Sunday when he received some stinging criticism. He had lunch with a friend the next day hoping for some sympathy. He said, I was once complaining to my friend Steve Chapman about someone who had been critical of me. He said, well, at least you got that woe off your back. I asked him to explain. He said, Jesus said, woe unto you when all men speak well of you. Now that's one woe you don't have to worry about. I'm introducing a study that helped me with this topic. In churches where there's more than one person working with the church, we have staff meetings each week. The first part of the meeting is Bible study. We select a book, read a chapter, and reflect on it for 30 minutes, comment, ask questions, suggest applications. What follows is a result of our Bible studies at Bears Chapel from June 2, 2001 through February 19, 2002. Our selected book was Proverbs. As we were studying, I kept noticing the words reproof, correction, rebuke, instruction. I was amazed how much is in the book on criticism. Months later, during a week of isolation, which I plan to discuss in a later podcast, I read Proverbs again, noting and studying those frequent observations. I put together what I call a Proverbs criticism sandwich. We'll get a slice of bread from Psalms, the meat will come from Proverbs, the bottom slice will come from Ecclesiastes. Let's start with the top slice of bread. Psalm 139, 23 and 24. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties, and see if there's any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Is that a good prayer for you and me to pray? In the beginning verses of the psalm, David said God knows what he's thinking. God knows what he's saying. If he should go to heaven, God's there. When he goes to the grave, God's there. God can see him in the light. He can see him in the dark. God was aware of him when he was conceived, and God covered him in his mother's womb. Rather than resist, David invites God inside him, asks him to have a look around, and says, if you find anything wrong, help me fix it. One translation reads, point out anything in me that offends you. I ask again, is that a good prayer? My answer is yes. Next question. How might God answer that prayer? How will he point out anything in me that offends him? Could it be that the answer would come by people pointing out things that need to be corrected and ways to improve? My observation, when someone finds salmonella in my refrigerator and tells me about it, he's helping me, not hurting me. I don't want to get sick. I don't want my wife, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren getting sick. Thank you for recognizing and warning me of the danger. John Stott said, maturity is moving from a thin skin and a hard heart to having a thick skin and a tender heart. Bill Gates observed, your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. Wisdom personified speaks often in the first 9 chapters of Proverbs. Listen to what wisdom says about one's attitude toward correction. If only you had listened when I corrected you. I would have told you what's in my heart. I would have told you what I'm thinking. I called, but you refused to listen. I held out my hand, but you paid no attention. You did not follow my advice and did not listen when I corrected you. So I'll laugh when you're in trouble. I'll make fun when disaster strikes you, when disaster comes over you like a storm, when trouble strikes you like a whirlwind, when pain and trouble overwhelm you. Then you will call to me, but I will not answer. You will look for me, but you will not find me. It is because you rejected knowledge and did not choose to respect the Lord. You did not accept my advice, and you rejected my correction. So you'll get what you deserve. You'll get what you plan for others. Proverbs 1:23-31. Wisdom continues in Proverbs 3:11 and 12. My child, don't reject the Lord's discipline, and don't be upset when he corrects you. For the Lord corrects those whom he loves, just as a father corrects a child in whom he delights. Solomon warned his children about evil people. Now, my sons, listen to me and don't ignore what I say. Stay away from such a woman. Don't even go near the door of her house, or you'll give your riches to others, and the best years of your life will be given to someone cruel. Strangers will enjoy your wealth, and what you work so hard for will go to someone else. You will groan at the end of your life when your health is gone. Then you will say, I hated being told what to do. I would not listen to correction. Proverbs 5:7-12. We've learned criticism it's going to happen. My choice, how will I respond? In the next episode, I'll continue to discuss how to accept, invite, and enjoy criticism.
Thank you for listening to Gleaning Mustard Seeds with Jerrie Barber. If you found a mustard seed, send a text or email with a link to a friend. This podcast was brought to you by Braden Parsons Photography. From family photos to landscape photography and everything in between, Braden uses his passion for capturing meaningful moments to create art and embody memories that will be cherished for a lifetime. Whether you want photos for your family, an event, or even want to browse Braden's portfolio for prints you can buy as art for your home or office, go to bradenparsons.com to explore the creativity and inspiration that comes from Braden Parsons Photography. You can also contact Braden directly at bradencparsons@gmail.com to discuss how to turn your photography needs into your most adored keepsakes. There are links in the show notes to connect with Braden. Thank you for listening. Jerry looks forward to next week as we continue to collect and plant mustard seeds.